put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning.
Good morning, viewers. It is 7:21 a.m. and welcome back to the Tobago Updates Morning Show, coming to you here live from the Scarborough Library. Yes, we're mixing it up. We're on the outside this morning. Well, somewhat inside, but on the outside nonetheless. I want to take this opportunity this morning to certainly highlight and to recognize our sponsor here this morning, shirt outfit courtesy Checkpoint, and that's Checkpoint located at Upper Main Street in Scarborough. And remember, I always indicate to you when you head on into Checkpoint, it's not just about a visit and pick up clothes. Really, it's much more than that. It's about an experience, really seeking to ensure that customers and clients and those visiting get what they require for every possible occasion. So remember to check Checkpoint, located at Upper Main Street in Scarborough, 639-5148. All right, and we want to head on to the live for a quick birthday shout out. And this shout out is going out to Leonora Martinez. And this is coming from Maria Mars, one of our viewers on the live this morning. Her mom is celebrating her 76th birthday. So we want to say happy birthday to you, Leonora Martinez, celebrating today, coming from your daughter and the entire Tobago Updates family. All right, viewers, at this point, we prepare to head on into our discussions as we speak Dertech. For those of you who are not yet familiar with the term, the Division of Education, Research and Technology. And this morning we have on set with us Natasha, second Technical Advisor, Dertech, and Sanisha Ali joining us on set, Personal Advisor. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning. Thank you.
All right, so as we get started with the conversation this morning, naturally, within our atmosphere, it's probably been just about a year, the operations of a new administration, and many have been saying, we've taken a lot of time and we want to know where we are going. So we got the conversation started, and I'll throw the heavy question on you first. Natasha, tell us a little bit about plans in relation to the strategic direction for the Division of Education, Research and Technology.
Yes, well, it's always a pleasure to represent the Division of Education, Research and Technology and to update the people about what good works we are doing in the education sector and how we are spending the public funds to advance our quality of our education system. We have been developing our strategic plan over the last few months. We were focusing internally on realigning and streamlining our operations and our procedures within the division itself. We have, just to remind the people, several sections in Dertech. The schools themselves, people will be most familiar with those, the head office, TITL, that's 211, and THTI, the hospitality school. What we were focusing on was revising our vision statements, our mission, and our goals, making sure that we are totally aligned so that we can collaborate better and we can work together better to produce a better end product. So we use the VMOSA model, the vision, mission, objectives, and strategic action plans. I'm most pleased to present the improvements that we have in our human resource capacity improvement. Our research department, we recently invested in training of our members of the research unit itself, and we visited Trinidad. We partnered with the University of the West Indies, the Maths and Statistics department there, and we looked at SPSS software and using that for quantitative analysis. So our staff is now quite capable of using that kind of software to deliver quantitative studies in a more effective way, to apply the right tests and so on, so we know what we're researching when we're researching. It helps us to make better use of the data to drive our policy. We also have hired an industrial relations officer, and that person is helping us to get rid of the backlog of industrial relations issues, human relations issues. They've been very systemic in the system, and it's going to help us to clear up problems for a variety a large number of our workers. So it's a teacher, a public servant. We have these industrial relations issues, and we now have the capacity to deal with them. We also want to look at the second phase of Project Impact. That began as a remedial program, but we are very happy to say that in the July-August period, we're going to be doing both the remedial and the accelerated program. So we want to invite teachers to get excited and apply to tutor, and parents to get involved, get their children involved, bring them out, so that we can overall improve the quality of our education from the early childhood all the way up to secondary.
I hear you speaking and I go back to my school days in my Miss Second mode. We have the benefit in the division, once again, the Secretary Zarisha Hackett, Assistant Secretary Orlando Koo, coming out of that background with education. And similarly, yourself, that background with education, how has that been, particularly utilizing that experience to assist with treating or combating some of the challenges faced in the division of education, as you indicated, some being age-old challenges for teachers in our system and educators?
We understand the issues because we were, on the ground, so to speak, in the trenches. So we understand sometimes the power distance between working in a classroom and creating policy. So we have brought that reality to the division space, and there's greater compassion for the everyday worker. We understand that they need to have high expectations for the students, and we need to have high expectations for them. And we're very patient. We understand the importance of investing time if you really want to see improvement in the system. Education and educational improvement is not a sprint. You know, it is a marathon. You have to have commitment, you have to have patience, and that is what we brought to the table. I want to make reference to the amount of money that Trinidad is spending on their remedial program. They just invested $50 million in their system, which would involve employing teachers, employing social workers, etc. And we must not shy away from investing heavily in our curriculum development. I know we spend a lot on infrastructure, but we have to invest more in the actual business of teaching and learning. We mustn't shy away from it. So one of the committees that we are creating to help us to do that is our Strategic Financial Planning Committee. We only get X amount of money from the Trinidad budget, so we have to stretch that, we have to streamline, we have to align, we have to ensure we don't have wastage, but we also have to source more funds. So this committee is going to create a holistic budget, a realistic budget, and we're going to source additional funds. We're not going to allow what we get or when we get it from Trinidad to hold back our product in Tobago, because as we see in Trinidad, heavy investment is being made in the sector.
Very, very interesting perspective. I hear you talk curriculum development, and I'm sure Kushal Cornwall is happy out there because once you talk investing more in that area, I know Mr. Cornwall is a strong advocate in that area. Sanisha, tell us, we see Dertech, generally the core areas being education, research, and technology. But there's this particular initiative upcoming that I'd like you to give us a little insight into, the Dertech Community Impact. What is this about?
So, the community impact is that leg of impact, the program that is currently being run in the schools, that will be extended to the community. So it is an intervention strategy that we have to help the community to develop educationally. So while we're focusing on giving the students at school the right tools, the right resources, there are adults in the community who are crying out, here is what, I would like to have my maths and English, and it may not be for a job, but just to be in the conversation with their child or ward, helping them with their homework, you know, being part of that development process with them. So we have persons interested in doing the maths and English at the CSEC level, and some for actually a job, you know, and we have that group of persons who are also interested in becoming computer literate, and you know, especially coming out of the pandemic, you know, everybody had to go online, and you know, you can't access certain governmental services, you can't make a booking online, it's just very overwhelming to some of the adults. So there was an awareness with the technology. So there is this part of community impact. While we focus on maths and English, we want to focus as well on the literacy aspect. And that literacy aspect will have some literacy, some numeracy, and the computer literacy, just helping adults to become more functionally literate, you know, being able to access certain grants or services that they are eligible for, but they are unable to actually do the sign up and the write up, you know. So we have that aspect of the community impact program that we would like to target that group. And then there's another group of the adults in the community who would really like to get on board with a trade. And it may just be for a hobby, but it may have some entrepreneurial interest there as well. So they would like to get on board with some kind of trade or skill. And so at this point, for that program, we are actually collaborating with the Division of Community Development, Youth Development and Sport, because they has had these programs roll out in the community for a while, the skill programs. So instead of reinventing the wheel and have this division doing the same thing that the other division is doing and money is running here for the same programs there, we decided to collaborate, and we will have them as part of the stakeholders in that part of the initiative for community impact. And then, how can we forget our elders, right? So we have the elders who may just be like, I enable with the books and I enable with the maths and the English and the whatever, but what is there for us, you know? And so we have that aspect of the community impact that will target the elders, where we have them come together with their peers, and I would think it's about 60 plus, and we have them engage in nice stimulating activities for their mind, even physical activities that will just help them to have that sense of belonging, have that engagement, and, you know, have something to do. So the community impact is really for the adults.
All right, so it basically runs from 18 and over.
Yes.
Tell us, what's the target communities, and when are you looking at getting started in terms of the rollout of community impact? Because I know Project Impact is July, August.
Yeah.
Tell us about when is the startup period you're looking at, and you know which communities we're going to get started with.
Okay, so the startup date we're looking at is in April. So we would have had all the consultation with the different stakeholders, and we are just sorting out the schedules. Where are we going to roll it out? In all of the electoral districts throughout Tobago. So we are starting at least with the 15, right? And every community will have their schedule as to what will happen at that community level. So for instance, let's say we take that Pembroke Bell Garden area, Dr. Faith's district. They will receive schedule, and maybe maths will be on Monday at the multipurpose in center in Bell Garden, and then English might be at the Pembroke Community Center, then the skill will be at another. So it's really community based. Every community will have a schedule that will be targeted to them. So bringing it to them at that level will just, accessible, making it easier. It's not just a class in Signal Hill that the East people will have to try to get down to. So it's bringing it right down at the community level. So starting with all 15.
All right. So when we look at this expanded rollout in terms of reaching and connecting with our communities, I want you to give us a sense. Is there any charge affiliated with this, or is it that we're going to offer this as means of building the capacity? Tell us a little bit in relation to that.
So we're actually going to be giving this as a free option for the community, right? It's been sponsored by the Division of Education, Research and Technology, along with the Division of Community Development, Youth Development and Sport. So it is a free program for for adults to engage in.
All right. I want you to tell us as well, Ms. Second, with the rollout of this program, how long is it going to run for? And what might be some of the factors that will be looked at in terms of assessing its success? Because sometimes we hear the challenge in the Tobago space that, yes, there are persons who need it, and it's offered, but people don't always come out. Tell us about some of the strategies to ensure that we connect with the persons in need.
Right. So what we're looking at is a dual response to weaknesses in our system. So we're looking at building up our school system so that in the future we wouldn't have the vast number of persons who the only thing that they are really capable of doing is like an early morning work. They don't have the capacity to, they don't have the level of critical thinking and the level of problem solving to manage the resources well, etc. So we're doing, on the one hand, we're looking to review how we teach and how we learn in the schools. And on the other hand, we want to bring up the community, and what we want to do is to market it in such a way to the people on the ground. So the Division of Education is going to be going out into the society, going out from Charlottesville to Crown Point. We're going to be on caravans, we're going to be in consultations with the churches, the NGOs, the
Youth
man on the
clubs.
street, everybody. We're going to have to teach people the importance of building capacity. You cannot assume that everybody understands the virtue of developing themselves individually, etc. You actually have to help them to see it. Yeah. So as Sanisha was saying, somebody might want to come to a literacy class without understanding that it will help them to apply for grants better on their own, rather than to have to look for nanny or cousin or auntie to help them to write out the form. Yeah. Understanding that it will help us to be able to look forward to a bigger thing than just a one-time payment of an ex gratia $1,000. We want to have bigger visions. We want to have better expectations for ourselves as we move towards autonomy.
Yes.
So that is the language that we're going to be carrying to the people and helping people to raise their own expectations. It is a teacher who does that.
Yes.
It's a teacher who helps very patiently persons to understand that they could have better.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes. Teachers certainly responsible for that direction, grooming doctors, lawyers, and persons in agriculture, you name it. Sanisha, tell us as well, for persons who may be interested in this program, when does the registration period get started and whether there's registration open for both tutors within the various electoral districts and or persons in the electoral district to participate?
Thank you. So the registration process will be advertised shortly. We are just finalizing on the schedules and where exactly what will happen in which center, because a lot of programs are out there. So they can look out for it at the end of February. And yes, we are calling on all the tutors, especially from within the community. There's that opportunity for the teachers that reside in that district to be able to help the adults within that district to elevate as well. So when the advertisement goes out, and it will be out all over the place, everybody who will be qualified in that area is welcome to apply.
All right, excellent. So we can look forward to that after Carnival?
Yes.
All right. And we'd certainly be sure to have you all back to be able to give us a little more insight into the areas. And so will there also, is the intent to also have it accessible where persons can apply online and not just in terms of in-person applications?
Yes, yes. So we are planning to have some forms at least on the Division of Education, Research and Technology's website. And hopefully they'll be able to download and have their stuff. But most likely we'll have some drop-offs at the division, even though it's available online.
Excellent.
Because we want to have that kind of transparency and accountability.
All right. I can't have Natasha on and not speak to this. We've just been out of the happenings of a pandemic where we saw some challenges naturally to transition to using online learning. Tell me about these considerations in terms of the future and the strategic direction for the Division of Education, because it is no secret that it has been broadly said in the Tobago space, the Tobago House of Assembly has direct responsibility under the Tobago House of Assembly Act for education. Tell us about those plans specifically with considerations for how do we continue to integrate technology in some way, form, or fashion so that it's not a scramble. God forbid we are back in a time where we have to use it as one of those platforms for learning.
So that's an interesting question. We have a whole technology focus because we have the technology department under our purview. And that technology department is the capacity is going to serve all of the Tobago House of Assembly. Within the school system, we actually have formed a committee of principals, and those principals are looking at, we haven't just lost time through COVID. Post-COVID, we have had a lot of disasters, natural disaster issues. So there's been a lot of school closure. So the principals, the teachers, etc., and other stakeholders were clamoring for a way to continue education, continue quality education, even while people have to stay at home to be safe.
Yeah.
And so the online has to be revisited. So we are designing the policies right now, and we're working together to make it all align with our regulations and so on, so that we will have that capacity. E-testing is also happening now, so we have to actually build in the capacity within the schools with the laptops, the actual devices, the internet, the greater broadband, etc. So it's something that we have to do now because CXC is requiring us to do online testing.
Yes.
Right? So we are very busy, the tech department in the division itself and TITO, we're working together and we're building the capacity, both with the infrastructure and the human resource development.
All right. And I want you to tell us a little bit, particularly in terms of the human resource, the building out of those capacities. We're operating in a space, I know one of the new areas is research. Tell us a little bit more about that in terms of the strides made thus far, the projections for the development of that area.
Right. So earlier I spoke about how we built some training capacity within the research members themselves, but we are taking on a director now. That should happen post-Carnival, so that department is going to be able to focus on specific problem resolutions. What are the actual problems that we have? Sometimes you think from observation, some basic observation, that you know what the correlations are. This is causing this, or this is related to that. But we have to be more scientific in our approach and look beyond the descriptives, just the percentage of this and the percentage of that, and drive the data with actual research that is, we can use inferential statistics and we can make relations. If we can make relations, then we know what to add and what to subtract from the system. So now we're looking at building an accountability system. So it is the research department that will help us to do that. Research will also tell us how many people are out there whose kids are not in school. Because we have kids who are not in school. They never were enrolled in school. How many kids are dropping out of school at the primary or the secondary level? And where are they? Where are they? And how do we get them back into some kind of formal system of education or a recognized informal system? We have, during the pandemic, we had sporadic developments of early childhood centers because remember we had the lockdown, so you weren't legally allowed. So people just open a little thing downstairs by the kitchen and the children were dropped off, you know, so mommy could go and work. But we now have to know how many of those exist and be able to educate both the parents and the persons who are providing the service to come to the division, get registered, because you have legitimate and legal systems that we have to acknowledge and we have to fix to make sure that the child is getting the appropriate level of education and is well protected. So now we need to know what is out there. So we're going to actually have to send the people out there to find out what is happening in the system, and we now have the capacity to analyze the data when they come back with the data.
Excellent, excellent. Sanisha, tell us a little bit about the expected outcomes in relation to community impact. Sounds great in terms of where we are heading, what we are projecting. But what are you anticipating in terms of the expected outcome that you're really working towards as a division to achieve?
Well, we are anticipating great participation because the need is there. Tobagonians are actually thirsty and hungry now for that development, that personal development. And so we have a number of persons who will call. We receive calls at the division. Hey, what is happening for the adults in the community? So that demand is already telling us that these programs will be filled. And we have a rigorous monitoring and evaluation team that will monitor these programs, that will be going out, you know, to do appraisals and to ensure that what we targeted to do is actually happening at the community level. So we're expecting the Tobagonians to actually be a part of it, and then from our end, we are going to monitor and evaluate to ensure that we have a successful community impact program.
All right, excellent. What would you want to share particularly in terms of, or what would you say are perhaps one of the outstanding achievements thus far, definitively in moving in this direction as the division, and perhaps one of the main challenges that still exist?
Okay. I think facing our differences and uniting so that we have one vision, one streamlined direction, and one set of core values and one set of core goals. I think that has been a big achievement. We see units are beginning to work better with each other, and that's the only way that we can manage our resources effectively. So I think that's a really strong achievement that we've made together as the employees within this sector so far. And there is an understanding and a willingness to improve the quality of the product. Everybody has recognized that the purpose of education is student improvement. Whatever your job is, whether you're the driver, whether you're the food and nutrition provider, your purpose is to improve the individual performance of the student. The challenges would be resistance, cultural resistance. Persons who may have been comfortable with whatever the product was and comfortable with what they were getting, or with the slow pace of their lives. They don't want that charge up and that drive and that push towards improvement. So they will resist. But resistance would be futile if everybody is working together to achieve the common goal of improving the individual student performance. And what we have all been able to accept is that the difference between all those beautiful children coming in at early childhood level and somewhere at the end where so many of boys in particular end up on the streets, unemployable, with critical thinking skills that are challenging. It says that we have somewhere to go, and we all have to work together to fix that together.
Well, as you mentioned that very quickly, you or Sanisha, one of the teachers we have making a comment coming in, well, obviously via WhatsApp, not wanting to be identified, indicating that they have heard for a number of years speaking about the broader vision and so, but they're wondering particularly about the low-hanging fruits, fundamental issues. My increments, gratuities. Tell us a little bit about the progress with regards to that for the benefit of our teachers viewing as well.
Oh, yes. Remember I said earlier we hired an industrial relations officer, a whole human being to focus on all of their systemic issues. We're focusing very heavily on regularizing the contract workers. We hired task force to clean up those increments, that backlog, because it affects people.
Yes.
It affects your life. You come, you give all that you can give, for those who give all that they can give, and you expect somebody in the system to be looking after you, going through your file and making sure that you get your increments on time, you get your gratuity on time, etc. And that is what I was trying to explain earlier. Making everybody in our division itself, all of the employees, they understand that our single purpose is student improvement.
Yes.
And if that is the case, then you working in sub-accounts or you working in HR, you will see about the teacher's needs, because the teacher is in front of the student. So you are going to mind your business, because when you're thinking of doing your work, you're thinking about the child who you are close to, your daughter, your niece, somebody who you're working in the Sunday school with. You have to do your work, and that is why we have to get our workforce to the place where we understand that when we do our work, when we do our part, we help the whole. So their issues are being resolved, because we have to iron out a lot of things below in order for individuals to see the benefit. So yes, the increments, the gratuity, all of those things are well in train.
All right, so I'm getting some info. According to my information, 17 million thus far paid out. That's in increments over the last year, 6 million up to January. And we can anticipate more. That's the commitment that I'm getting here this morning.
Of course.
All right, excellent. As we look to wrap, just remind the viewers, the Community Impact Program, when it starts, persons that can apply, the broad age group, and contact for the Division of Education, Research and Technology.
So 18 years and over, as long as you are unable to access high school education, you are eligible for this program. You can join in whenever we have the ads up and about. The teachers in the communities, you are welcome to apply. It begins in April, and let's get excited about it. We need to come up as a people, we need to be empowered as a people, and so we are on it.
All right. So we continue, and this is our call out for Secretary Zarisha Hackett and Assistant Secretary. Those commitments that were given, we're looking forward to ensuring that they are fulfilled in terms of that gentle reminder of working to ensure that teachers get what they deserve. I know that's one of the mantras that she speaks to very often coming out of the system, and certainly teachers are looking forward to that continued commitment. As they say, meet the low-hanging fruits while you're dealing with the broader strategic vision. All right, we want to thank you very much, Natasha Second and Sanisha Ali, for joining us here on set. Yes, folks, after Carnival, look out for the registration information. Make contact. This will be your opportunity once you're 18 and over. Education and skills training coming to you courtesy the Division of Education, Research and Technology in collaboration with the Division of Community Development, Youth Development and Sport. And this morning I also want to give a quick reminder out there. You may be wondering, for those of you, hey, they're coming to us from the library. What's going to be happening here? Yes, folks, we're going to be continuing and going live from 9 a.m. this morning. Understanding the pre-qualification and e-tendering process, and persons would have been invited to a vendor sensitization session that's being held here at the Scarborough Library Facility and Mitchell Gift Auditorium. So we will be carrying it live from 9 a.m. to 12 noon today, and that's why we are actually coming here to you this morning with the Tobago Updates morning show from the Scarborough Library Facility. So it's your opportunity to ensure that you are present, and if you're not able to be present, ensure ensure that you tune in to the live on Tobago Updates. We want to thank each and every one of you for continuing to choose the Tobago Updates morning show. And it is our pleasure, as we would say, we continue to be on top and to be number one because of each and every one of you taking that time out. Those of you watching via TV, those of you connecting with us and listening in on the radio. And to those of you joining us online, let me invite Natasha and Sanisha to say with me, what do we tell them to? Share the live, share the live, share the live.